The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Knowledge is power, and this is powerful stuff. Wellness Education Cannabis Advocates of Nevada present the We Can 702 Nevada Cannabis News Hour with the We Can radio team. For the next 60 minutes, we'll take an in-depth look at the cannabis reform revolution sweeping the nation. Now, let's fire up the news hour. Here is the We Can radio team.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Nevada Cannabis News Hour. I'm your host, Mike McAuliffe. In the studio with me is my co-host and friend, Perry Heitschy. How you doing this week, Perry?
Very well, no complaints. Weather's good, life is good.
Weather is gorgeous out there. Here we are in June and it's not 110 degrees. I love it.
Got to get lucky sometimes with that, so enjoy the break while we got it.
That's right. And we know that, obviously this is a cannabis-related show, and there are going to be a lot of cannabis-friendly people coming into town this week for the EDC, the Electric Daisy Carnival.
Yes.
And it is going to be a huge conflagration up there by the Speedway. And as I'm sure in our first year of a cannabis legal state, that even though it's only legal in your home to smoke it, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people sparking up at the concert.
Oh, of course. And on that note, there's going to be about 350,000 people attending. If you're planning on going, please plan accordingly. The traffic's going to be terrible going to and from.
Take lots of water.
Take lots of water. If you do decide to bring your cannabis with you, know that you are on private property. They have the discretion to either admit or deny your ability. Insomniac hasn't really released a statement concerning medical marijuana specifically to my knowledge, but as far as I'm aware, they don't really, if they catch you with it, they're not going to let you in, but they're not going to send you to jail either. So just be careful and be discreet if you choose to medicate there.
And that's the key. It is be discreet. And if you do that, I think you avoid most of the problems that you run into with law enforcement in any of these open air events. So EDC should be another fantastic event for the Vegas economy and the community. And as we are moving into a post-prohibition phase in this state, hopefully that's going to bring more money in and allow people to have an even better experience at these shows.
Absolutely.
Meantime, here in the state of Nevada, we have the legislative session ended last week, and the governor is at the end of his 10-day window almost to sign or veto various bills. And according to Chris Kudalis over at the Las Vegas Sun, the governor has now signed 3 new bills and vetoed one, which will have some effect on the cannabis community. Senate Bills 478 and 344 were inked, along with Senate Bill 422. And we talked about 422 a fair amount last week in the show. And Senate Bill 478 calls for a 15% wholesale tax on both medical and recreational cannabis, and this is a move that's praised by dispensary owners as cost-cutting, despite increasing the current wholesale tax on the medical plant. So the people in the various dispensaries, like mentioned in the article here is Armin Yemedigian of the Essence Cannabis Dispensary, and he's saying having one inventory is very important. It'd be very difficult and cumbersome to manage 2 different inventories. Yes, because we know bars have a tough time holding beer and spirits, or
it's just impossible to manage.
Oh, it's impossible to manage, right? On the one hand, you would think that business would say, oh my God, a 15% tax, we don't want it. Where are all our Republican leaders who are promising a low tax environment for us?
Sure.
And we don't want it. And here the industry is saying, oh, we don't care about that 15% tax, that extra 15%. It's easier for us because now we only have to have one product stream. And it's also easy because they're going to take that 15% and pass it right on to the consumer.
Sure, they don't care either way.
They're not going to be paying a penny of that out of their own pockets, and so of course they're going to say, yeah, let's go for it. And so what that means, though, is we have a 15% wholesale tax, and this is in comparison to when Senate Bill 374 came out. It was a 2% excise tax.
Right.
On each step from cultivation through production to dispensary. So at most that would have been a 4% tax, and so now we've got that significantly increased, and the state is more than happy to become a business partner with all of these dispensaries. It is just the way it is.
That's basically about what it is. We can bark all we want, but we just have to deal with it and go back next legislative session and see what we can do.
Yeah.
So we'll just cross those bridges as they come up 2 years from now.
And you know, looking at these, the one that got vetoed was Assembly Bill 259, and this is something that really kind of gets to me here, because people have been dissatisfied with the drug war in an increasing percentage for years and years and years, and we have in this state said that it should be legal for adults to possess and consume cannabis and to cultivate it, and yet the governor does not want to allow people who have had small-time convictions in the past for this substance to have those convictions wiped and to make a fresh start in life. And that really just burns me, you know?
It screams of law enforcement collusion. I mean, they're the only people who I could possibly think of that would want to preserve these people's criminal records for no unforeseen reason. I mean, there's always this stigma about people, you know, potheads can't, they don't work, or this, that, or the other. Well, it's kind of difficult when you're getting forcibly shut out of the workforce due to your history, and sometimes you may be shut out of, you know, legitimate jobs that you want to pursue outside of the cannabis industry for doing something that is now recreationally legal. And we're not talking about, you know, expunging people's records who are convicted of selling pot. What we're talking about is simple possession up to an ounce, possession of a plant, possession of a plant. That's what we're talking about here, or the quote paraphernalia that's associated with the use of said plant. And we're still going to lock people's criminal records down from them pursuing a normal life after it's been voted on by the majority of the state. It's oh, and not only by the populace of the state as a majority, but the legislators who represent their constituents as a whole. This one man has decided in his infinite wisdom to decide to do this, which is, I don't want to say mind-boggling, because I think it feeds right into his want to cozy up to the new administration. And there's a bill on that as well. There's a bill that kind of ties right into that. And Jeff Sessions, our new fearless Attorney General, has decided to personally ask Congress to allow him to prosecute medical marijuana providers. Basically, what he did is he went directly to Congress and asked them to
strip out the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment, which used to be known as the Hinchy-Rohrabacher Amendment before Congressman Hinchy retired, and it is an amendment that has been in place in the federal budget since 2014, which essentially prevents the federal government from spending $1 on going after licensed medical marijuana providers in those states which have legalized the medical cannabis. And so it prevents the government from spending investigative money. It prevents the government from spending prosecutorial money. So even if a case was midway, along that path, when this rider came in, the government could not proceed with those cases. And so, as Perry says, what Attorney General Sessions wants to do now is get around that amendment and go directly after these people. And in the letter that he wrote to the Senate, he said, "I believe it would be unwise for Congress to restrict the discretion of the department to fund particular prosecutions, particularly in the midst of an historic drug epidemic."
Of course,
and
what we're
potentially
talking about
long-term
is
uptick in violent crime. And okay, we'll stop there for a moment. A historic drug epidemic. Yes,
everyone knows what he's talking about.
We are having an epidemic in this country. It is an opioid epidemic, causing 43,000 deaths a year in this country.
And it's been going on a lot longer than they've had their eyes on it, for sure. So
and this is something which a pendulum which swings back and forth on availability and restriction, and it's been swinging this way since the mid-90s, when they said that physicians weren't doing enough to treat patients. And what's really driving this are the big pharmaceutical companies who are developing these high level opioid painkillers like fentanyl, Vicodin, Percodan, all these sort of things, and they are pushing.
Which all, by the way, have legitimate medical uses if used appropriately, for sure.
Absolutely, they do. But people have. For as long as there's been society, people have been trying to find a way to alter their consciousness, and if this way works, they're gonna go after it. And so some people do abuse it. There's no doubt about it. But your point is valid that it is absolutely appropriate and safe when used, in a proper setting. And I just don't think we should be making those people have to endure pain and suffering just because we can't figure out how to handle the pipeline to prevent it.
Of course, and we shouldn't. And people trust our doctors. If the doctor says you need to take 4 OxyContin pills a day until you feel better, well, people are going to be inclined to do that. We've been taught from youth to trust these people.
Absolutely.
And they don't. I just want to put it like they don't know what they don't know. If they're not trained in medical marijuana, how are they supposed to know any better? They're supposed to just trust this patient coming in off the street and say, hey, this stuff works for me or whatever. It's just one of those things that we're going to have to address on an educational level through their training eventually. And we'll cross that bridge eventually. But for now, man, we got to fight back against this kind of this crazy rhetoric that Attorney General Sessions is pushing now.
Well, and he also mentioned, before we stopped in reading his letter here, a potentially long-term uptick in violent crime. Now, this is clear political doublespeak, okay? Because has there been an uptick in violent crime? Yes, but that is because it has been trending down for the last 2 decades, and so at some point, sooner or later, in any downtrend, you're going to have a little squiggle, you're going to have a little spike.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean the trend reverses. But what he says here, disingenuously, is it is a potentially long-term uptick in violent crime. Any uptick is potentially a change looking into the future. You don't. Is it the first uptick of a series of? Well, it potentially could be. But if you just have little scattered data points here, that's not a change. And for the Attorney General to be saying it's a potentially long-term uptick, he's saying, okay, maybe this is something we might have to worry about in some years. But well, he's using it to get what he wants now, which is
we can interject something like that into any situation we want. Maybe the earthquake in California will hit next week. Do we know? Well, we don't know.
That's true. That's true.
It's just
Donald Trump could potentially be the greatest president America has ever had. You see,
he's
potentially.
He's on a roll so far.
That's the word. Okay. So anyway, Attorney General Sessions continues. The department, meaning the Justice Department, must be in a position to use all laws available to combat the transnational drug organizations and dangerous drug traffickers who threaten American lives. Now, once again, here, transnational drug organizations. Okay, if people are importing fentanyl or opium, that's one thing. But nobody in the licensed medical cannabis field in this country is part of a transnational drug organization.
The only transnational drug organizations I'm aware of are the publicly traded ones like Kaiser Permanente.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely true. Sessions cited a historic drug epidemic to justify this crackdown, but it's at odds with what researchers know about current drug use and abuse in the U.S. The epidemic Sessions refers to, of course, as I mentioned, involves opiates, not marijuana, and a growing body of research acknowledged now by the National Institute of Drug Abuse and reported on this show numerous times. It's shown that opioid deaths and overdoses actually decrease in states with medical marijuana laws on the books. That research strongly suggests that cracking down on medical marijuana laws, as Attorney General Sessions requested, could perversely make the opioid epidemic even worse. And yet he doesn't care. He is such a dyed-in-the-wool drug warrior that he does not let the facts cloud his vision, and I mean,
this is the problem with people with worldviews. You know, it's difficult to have beliefs or a worldview because you get wrapped up in defending that. I believe that drugs are bad. Well, now you have to defend that belief. It's better to have ideas because you can change your ideas at the drop of a hat when presented with new evidence, which is what reasonable adults do. We have ideas about, you know, issues, and when new evidence comes in, we objectively look at that, and if there's, you know, evidence that points in the other direction, we have the right and ability to change our minds.
Yep.
I don't understand what's the problem with at least looking at the evidence and making an educated decision rather than just sticking to the rhetoric, because the rhetoric doesn't hold true anymore.
Well, you know,
what percentage of Americans support medical marijuana? It's somewhere in the 90s.
94%. You can't get Americans to agree 94% on
if the sky's blue.
Yeah, really. You know, I don't know. It looks a little gray to me today.
Yeah.
But it's just absolutely mind-boggling. Okay, advocates here have been closely watching the Trump administration for any sign of how it might tackle these politically complex issues, marijuana legalization, right? Candidate Trump offered support of state-level medical marijuana regulations, including the notion that states should be free to do what they want on policy, right? He absolutely did. And now, but Sessions' letter now is with its explicit appeal to allow the Justice Department to go after medical marijuana providers appears to undermine that support. And that letter, along with a signing statement from the president indicating some skepticism over medical marijuana protections, should make everyone openly question whether candidate Trump's rhetoric and the White House's words on his support for medical marijuana was actually a lie to the American public on an issue that garners broad bipartisan support. And this is by a Chris Kudak of the Brookings Institute, which is a research and study institute. And as I'm reading this, I'm listening to what they're saying about candidate Trump's rhetoric and the White House's words of support for medical marijuana going away. I could replace President Trump with President Obama there, because candidate Obama made great promises on medical marijuana and
did nothing for 8 years.
And President Obama was such a disappointment.
Well, not only did nothing for 8 years, he prosecuted, or his department prosecuted, a lot of marijuana providers during those 8 years.
Right here in the state of Nevada, in 15 of this. So it's just really. It shows the direction that that the administration wants to go in. People have been trying to read the tea leaves since January 20th. What's the administration going to do? This and that and everything. And
it seems like they're taking little bites.
This is the first concrete indication that they really want to go after that industry. Now, the good thing is they're so mired in other problems that they haven't.
Oh yeah, they're very distracted, no doubt. But still, this is just a letter. This isn't a bill draft.
Nope.
This isn't a committee meeting or anything like that. This is just a letter, and that's all it is for now. I would imagine that there would hopefully be some pushback among the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, the newly formed Congressional Cannabis Caucus.
There are.
That has, you know, obviously seen this and is going to bark back at this, I would hope.
And in fact, today, as we're on the air, Attorney General Sessions has been testifying before the Senate in Washington today, and I understand that there were going to be a couple of questions about cannabis and medical cannabis enforcement being directed. And so we'll just have to take a look and see what happens there. But we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more news.
My name is Janine Evans, and I am the office manager at Getting Legal, and we help people get their medical marijuana cards. Anyone can be approved for a medical marijuana card as long as they have a pre-existing medical condition. The medical conditions recognized in Nevada include severe pain, severe nausea, muscle spasms, seizures, glaucoma, cancer, HIV or AIDS, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Our staff helps every patient determine before they come in for a visit whether or not they will qualify. We take care of the whole process of getting a medical marijuana card from the state of Nevada from start to finish. Our services include paperwork processing, a physician's visit, notary services. All of our patients pick up their approval letters right here in our office. We make it fast, simple, and easy. During your consultation, we will discuss different products available at the dispensaries, such as edibles, lotions, and concentrates. We will also discuss different ways to medicate, such as smoking or vaporizing. You will receive a separate identification card identifying you as a medical marijuana patient. This is used to enter the dispensaries and only to enter the dispensaries. Every veteran receives a discount off of the full price of their card. We also offer discounts to anyone working within the medical marijuana industry. All you need to do is call 702-979-9999 and a member of our friendly staff will help you schedule an appointment.
We're back with more news here in Nevada about cannabis. Okay, coming out yesterday from the Associated Press, the state of Nevada has asked a judge to allow recreational pot sales to start. Go ahead. And up in Carson City, District Judge James Wilson granted a temporary restraining order on May 30th, blocking the licensing of pot distributors until he can hold a hearing on the lawsuit which was filed by the Independent Alcohol Distributors of Nevada. And we talked about this last week in the show. Now, the distributors say that the ballot measure approved in November legalizing recreational cannabis dictates that alcohol distributors get the first shot at pot distribution licenses. And the Nevada Department of Taxation says the measure allows for existing medical marijuana dispensaries to play that role on a temporary basis, if necessary, from July 1st till the end of the year. And so now the state of Nevada is coming in on the side of the pot dealers. Wow, the state of Nevada wants the judge to allow pot to be sold in the state of Nevada.
They want the tax revenue. It's in the budget.
Bingo.
And not only that,
why.
but when you say the state is asking, what does that exactly mean? Is this the governor's office? Is this the Department of Taxation? Like who is representing the state in this?
When you're talking about the state, then you're talking about the Attorney General's office. That would be Adam Laxalt at present.
That's hard for me to believe.
Who is a member of the executive branch of government. So Adam Laxalt works essentially directly for Brian Sandoval.
I don't buy it, not for a second. Laxalt's pushing this? No freaking way.
Well,
no way.
The governor wants his tax money, you know.
He is a good soldier. I'll give him that.
Well,
okay, fair enough.
I guess you need to be. I mean, if the governor was counting on $70 million in taxes over 2 years, a 6-month period, that's still $17.5 million. And so they want that money. And we're gonna get to another story right here, which talks about these numbers. And this one comes to us from Colorado, who really leads on most of these issues. And let's see. The newest pot sales numbers are showing that Colorado is on track for an even bigger payday here in 2017. New monthly revenue figures indicate that the state is on track to exceed last year's massive sales totals for medical and recreational weed. Retail stores sold more than $125 million worth of product statewide just in April. And this is according to the Cannabis. Through the first 4 months of 2017, the state has collected over $76 million in taxes and fees on almost $500 million in sales. So the governor here in Nevada is looking to get $70 million over 2 years, and in Colorado, they've done more than that just in the first 4 months of 2017.
As people
would be wanting to push this industry out there to maximize the revenue, and once again, not to get more people smoking pot or consuming it in other ways, but making a legal alternative and crowding out the black market.
That's what people don't realize. They act like we're going out to get everyone stoned or something. No. I don't care if you smoke pot or not. I just want the people who choose to smoke it to be able to be safe while they do it, and to give legit tax revenue and kind of feel good about it when you do it, and to be safe
safely, and to be safe as well. Obviously, never doing it before you're going to go out there and drive, or get in a plane, or a hovercraft, or operate a true or anything else.
Or in Nevada, if you're going surfing, or if you're on a roller coaster, or any of the other nonsense they disallow you, though they don't want you to do while you're under the influence.
That's absolutely true. I think of that every time I go surfing in Nevada.
Same here.
So anyway, the state revenues in Colorado, collections from taxes and licensing fees are almost 50% above where they stood at the same point a year earlier.
Do you think that this is because people are becoming more comfortable with the idea of recreational cannabis as time goes on? Like, it's not like such a fresh thing in their mind now, and people kind of expect that to be a part of their tourist budget that they work in when they go to Colorado now?
For a tourist budget, yeah, absolutely. I think that if people who are cannabis consumers are going to a state like Colorado or any other, Oregon, any state that has illegal means, I think they will. Whether they constantly say, "Oh, I'm going to put $400 to this," or "I'm going to put $100," they're going to go and partake. I remember the first time I went to Amsterdam and found one of their hash bars, and it was an experience.
Yeah,
I mean, it's part of going to Amsterdam. So I knew I was going to go to Amsterdam, and I knew I was going to spend some money on a hash bar. I didn't really budget for it, but there's certainly.
I confess. Even when I go to California or to these recreational states now, I really don't worry as much about traveling anymore. I don't, like, people are like, oh, you know, people are going to bring their own pot from these states and they're going to bring them to Vegas. They're not going to spend as much. I don't buy it for a second, because the convenience level, the stress while traveling with cannabis is not worth it to me if I know I can just pick it up the second I get off the plane. Or if I'm in the car, I can just drive across the straight border and go get it. Why would I take that massive risk? Otherwise, it just doesn't, you know, maybe at first you will, but I think that people are really going to, like, loosen up to this and spend a lot of money eventually. And that's $125 million in a month. I mean, Colorado doesn't seem to me, like, I know they have a tourist industry there, but it pales in comparison to what we're able to provide here in the state of Nevada, I believe, as far as entertainment value.
But also, I point out that Colorado, from a story we did a few weeks ago, Colorado in 2015 had their best tourist year ever because of people coming in for canna tourism. So, you know, and here it says in Colorado that last April was the 11th straight month where Colorado businesses sold more than $100 million worth of pot. Particularly impressive given that retail prices have continued to fall since legalization first began. And to take your question from a little earlier, I don't know. I think that people are becoming more comfortable with the system, and I think that since the sky has not fallen, you have people who may have tried cannabis 20, 30 years ago and are now feeling a little arthritic or feeling other things and saying, oh, you know, I'm going to give that a shot. I'm going to give that a try. And hopefully people are deciding that, you know, maybe I'm not going to buy that fifth of tequila tonight and chase it down with a 12-pack of Bud, or pardon me, Colorado Coors. And, you know, instead I'm going to pick up, you know, an eighth of some nice OG or something like that.
Okay, on that note, I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast a while ago, and he is a big cannabis advocate. He loves weed.
Yep.
And he had, I forgot who it was, one of his co-hosts was discussing how strong modern weed has become. He's like, if you go to a liquor store and you walk in, you have beer, you have wine, you have hard alcohol, you have all these options. But if you haven't smoked in 30 years and you walk into a dispensary, it's all hard alcohol. Because the pot is so strong these days, it's hard for people to reintroduce themselves to these high potency strains of cannabis. So the question for me, or the question for the businesses, is do you believe that there will be a market for, I guess, entry level weed, really low THC strains for these new smokers? Like, instead of the 20 or 30% strains, will they harken back to some of these 8, 10, 12% strains just to get people softly back in?
Well, generally, I'm going to say no, because I think if you look in the business here, as the medical business got started, they were really going for the recreational business. Everybody went to the medical license just to get that. And so for the patients, you want a variety of medicine, but for those who need it, you want the strongest medicines out there. In the rec market, everybody wants the strongest stuff that they can get, and that's just how it is. So I don't think there's there's going to be a big push to go towards low THC strains. But if you have somebody who's just starting or just coming back to it after not having ingested for 20, 30 years or something, they do have those super low, those CBD strains like Charlotte's Web that have almost no THC in them, and so someone could try that as a way of moving into it. But
so the industry's already taken care of the problem by looking for other medicinal properties within the plant.
I don't really think it's a problem, though, because one of the things about cannabis that we've all been aware of for as long as we've been familiar with it is that people will titrate their own dose. They will ingest something and then they'll say, "Oh, okay, that's enough." And I'm talking about smoked. I'm not talking about edibles.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Edibles a whole different game. But the idea is that, and we were talking to Tommy Chung on Election Day, and he was saying how he's been smoking for years and years, but he's one and done. He takes a hit.
He's a freaking workaholic. The guy's in his 70s and he works constantly. He can't stay. That's a. I understand where you're coming from.
He's using a good sativa that keeps him motivated. But the thing is that. That what he said was absolutely valid. If you have somebody who is just starting and you're going to give, they're going to have something strong there, just take a few little crumbles. Just take a half puff. You don't have to go in and roll yourself a Cheech and Chong big bamboo joint with half a pound of it and try to suck it down in one hit.
Right.
It's just.
But you do have. But it's just like when people turn 21 sometimes. You see these kids in the bars, and they're like, oh, I just turned 20. I need a Long Island and a shot of Jameson. And it's just like, oh, fuck, here we go.
That's right. And when I did that, I was so sick the next day that I didn't touch hard liquor for a couple of years.
I know, but still, that is the mindset. And we propagate that mindset here in Vegas. We pride ourselves on it. What happens here stays here. Vegas enablers, all you can drink, wristbands and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You can't go to the club unless you buy a whole bottle of alcohol with your table. In fact, it needs to be 2 bottles of alcohol if you're going to have that table.
But if you wind up smoking too much cannabis, likely the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to find yourself a nice corner to curl up in.
No doubt. But when I worked at Hollyweed a while ago, before Prop D happened, we were allowed to serve hash.
This is in California.
Yeah, this is in California. We were allowed to do a hash bar, and you had people coming in there with these. Oh, I've been smoking since I was, this tall, and you can't fade me, and blah blah blah. This that the type. So you sit them down and you give them a dab, and these people acted like it was their first time smoking all over again. And I must confess, I had the same thing. I remember when my buddy sat me down, he was like, "This is going to knock your head off." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever," And it was incredible, the power that it had. And it's just, this is where education becomes so paramount. You have to be able to educate people on how potentially strong this new cannabis is and convince people to not go above their limits that they're not aware of yet.
Right.
And I think that's where that 400 milligram packaging for the edibles comes into play, and the lack of the hash bar bill died and things like that. People don't know what they don't know, and they don't fully understand this yet.
Yet at the same time, as to bring back a point that you said a little bit earlier, now that time is going by, people are starting to get more of an acceptance of it. And which is why we see in Colorado, in 10 months doing over $1 billion in retail sales. I think what's happening is that people are looking at it as a viable alternative to alcohol, because we've in previous shows we've covered stories about that, how some of the liquor and beer sales are actually going down in states like Colorado. And so if you look at it that way, as a vehicle of lesser harm, then by all means this trend should continue. But you can see, tying in with the story we just did about the liquor drivers putting a stop to this, the July 1st rollout, it's because they too have seen the research, and they know that their primacy, their monopoly on these mind-altering substances that could get people blasted and driving drunk, that's going to start to go away with the cannabis market. So they're being a little protectionist in trying to move this suit forward. This whole change is going to go in fits and starts across the country. Different locales will pick up into it quicker. You're going to have a much quicker acceptance of this in Los Angeles than you will in Las Vegas, and a quicker acceptance in Las Vegas than in Reno or Eureka or someplace like that. So I just see that this shows that these numbers that we're seeing from Colorado show that if the administrators here in Nevada really wanted to get a solution to their financial problems, they would embrace this reform other than just trying to
put the brakes on it.
Put the brakes on it every chance that they get. So we'll see. Okay, are we time for another break yet? I think
looks
we are.
so.
All right, we'll be right back.
My name is Janine Evans, and I am the office manager at Getting Legal, and we help people get their medical marijuana cards. Anyone can be approved for a medical marijuana card as long as they have a pre-existing medical condition. The medical conditions recognized in Nevada include severe pain, severe nausea, muscle spasms, seizures, glaucoma, cancer, HIV or AIDS, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Our staff helps every patient determine before they come in for a visit whether or not they will qualify. We take care of the whole process of getting a medical marijuana card from the state of Nevada from start to finish. Our services include paperwork processing, a physician's visit, notary services. All of our patients pick up their approval letters right here in our office. We make it fast, simple, and easy. During your consultation, we will discuss different products available at the dispensaries, such as edibles, lotions, and concentrates. We will also discuss different ways to medicate, such as smoking or vaporizing. You will receive a separate identification card identifying you as a medical marijuana patient. This is used to enter the dispensaries and only to enter the dispensaries. Every veteran receives a discount off of the full price of their card. We also offer discounts to anyone working within the medical marijuana industry. All you need to do is call 702-979-9999 and a member of our friendly staff will help you schedule an appointment.
Welcome back to the show. As we're moving beyond Nevada here, we're looking at the cannabis revolution is occurring in different states, and we have something filed from KYW News Radio in Philadelphia, and it says that permits for Pennsylvania medical marijuana growers dispensaries on track to be issued by the end of June. And in Philadelphia, the State Department of Health says it still expects to issue permits for marijuana grower, processors, and dispensaries by the end of this month. The deadline to submit these applications was in March, and their spokeswoman, April Hutchison, says that the State Department of Health expects to be awarding permits to successful applicants by the end of the month, but it'll still be a while before that medical marijuana is available. Once the permits are issued, the applicants will have 6 months to become operational. So they'll have 6 months to begin to set up their systems and processes and have an inspection before being deemed operational, according to Hutchison. There are a lot of other things that will have to happen, including certification of physicians and patients who will participate in Nevada's medical marijuana Pennsylvania's, medical marijuana program, which should be ready to serve those patients early in 2018. That's interesting here in Pennsylvania compared to Nevada. The doctors actually will have to sign on to become a medical marijuana doctor. Their years of medical training, their years of residency and internship and all this sort of stuff and practice isn't enough. Instead, they have to go back and become specially accredited. But it is another state moving forward in this. Now, and if we are also looking in the eastern part of the country, down in Florida, Governor Rick Scott says he will sign medical marijuana, a bill that's been approved by the lawmakers. And Governor Scott is one of these Tea Party Republicans, very right-wing, who did everything he could to thwart this whole process coming along. You might recall that last year, or last election cycle, the Floridians voted for medical marijuana by a 57% 40% margin, but the Florida initiative process calls for a 60% threshold. So
they actually won by a greater percentage of population base than any of the other states that had passed it, but ended up losing due to the laws that were on the books due to their election procedure.
And then finally, last November, they passed the amendment by 71%, and the legislation sets in motion a plan to license 10 new growers in the state of Florida by October, bringing the statewide total to 17. It will allow patients to use cannabis pills, oils, edibles, and vape pens with the doctor's approval, but bans smoking. Now is the time to do this, says Senator Rob Bradley of Fleming Island. Governor Rick Scott said he plans to sign the bill into law. The constitutional amendment was passed overwhelmingly, and I'm glad the House and the Senate were able to come together for a bill that makes sense for our state. Now, the governor is not going to veto this bill. And he's making nice sounds about it, even though he's been really opposed to this all along. Why is it? May have to do with the 29-6 vote in the Senate and the 103-9 vote in the House. Absolute supermajority.
They'd crush him
would not
with a veto.
be able to veto.
Yeah,
he would not be able to sustain a veto on that. So now he's jumping on board and saying, "Hey, attaboy." Among the provisions in Florida, patients can access the drug if they have chronic pain, but only if that pain is connected to another qualifying medical condition. So it's not. So Nevada's medical marijuana laws call for chronic and severe pain or nausea as being general catch-all provisions. In Florida, they're saying, yes, that's fine, but you need to have an underlying condition to tie that to. Cities and counties in Florida will be able to ban dispensaries, but are not able to block delivery of cannabis or limit where the pot shops can open more strictly than they do pharmacies. So there's a regulation level there. And you know, in some sense, that actually makes more sense than tying it to the number of bars or liquor shops or anything like that.
I don't remember getting to vote on whether the opiate distributing Walgreens was able to go down the street from my house, but they get a pass.
Yep. Opponents of the legislature's language commonly say they want patients to be able to smoke, and for those who have chronic pain unconnected to another medical condition to be able to use cannabis. These would be the cannabis activists in Florida.
Course.
They're saying no smoking is not what patients voted for, and this is Mariah Barnhart of Brandon, whose daughter Dahlia uses cannabis as a treatment for brain cancer. Not allowing these medicine to be used in a public place is extremely discriminatory. We don't choose when and where our kids cramp or seize, you know, and that's an absolutely valid point. You know, when you have any other condition, any other medicine, if people you know, are afflicted with something, you give them the medicine. It doesn't matter where they are, it doesn't matter what they do, because the overriding societal concern is, oh, is that person all right? How can we help that person? You know, what can we do?
Not when it comes to marijuana. You're a bad guy if you smoke pot.
It's even if you're a 5-year-old kid who's suffering 30 seizures a day.
Well, are you sure that that kid just doesn't want to get high?
Well,
are you sure about that? Because, you know,
I know.
Fucking nonsense.
It's
absolute nonsense.
Absolutely crazy. You know, lawmakers.
You know, I've actually heard people suggest such an insane thing.
That kids want to get high.
Oh, sure. Or you know, how dare the parents, you know, use that medicine or whatever. They just want their
kids to get high. They're saying
they're just all dopers. You know, they're all bad.
That's absolutely nuts. So things are moving forward in Florida, and
you know,
it's good to see that
we're cracking the door.
And this is going to be another state where I think that you are going to see a large number of people come on the program who are in the senior citizen set. Florida being a mainstream retirement destination, I think that you are going to see just a large percent of the population.
They'll be all over it, no doubt.
Also from beyond Nevada's shores, not that we have any shores in Nevada, in California, there's a proposal that will allow pot shops to sell both medical and recreational weed. Now, of course, we're already moving forward to do that here in Nevada.
I was wondering how that was going to how that was going to play out in California?
Well, Governor Jerry Brown and legislators proposed Monday to allow medical and recreational to be sold out of the same locations. And Jerry has never been a really big friend to the marijuana movement. Nate Bradley, the executive director of the California Cannabis Industry Association, said being able to co-locate is much more cost-effective for operators. Well, no kidding.
No kidding. Yeah, come on. Well, it makes sense. You've already background checked these people. They've already gone through city licensing. It's the same reasoning they have through here. Why make it so egregiously difficult for government to regulate these new owners?
Right.
Just lop them in with the rest and have the new recreational owners go through the same process that the medical people went through for vetting, and just let's make it happen.
Well, what they're saying here is that by allowing both at one location, the results may be half as many businesses open in a city, which could reduce enforcement costs for the city and state. You know, and that's interesting. In almost any other industry, a municipality would want as many businesses as they could coming in. Bigger tax base, you know, more business,
depending on the type of business.
But in this industry, the selling point is, well, you let us do it, and we'll only open half as many as we would have.
Well, if you look at if you look at the liquor licensing in various municipalities, let's just look at Vegas.
Sure.
You can sell beer and wine, or you can sell beer, wine, and liquor, or you can have a packaged liquor license if you're a bar sometimes.
Right.
And if you're a convenience store, sometimes you can sell single cans or single bottles. Sometimes you can't. You have to apply for various zoning zoning variances to do all that. So they'll let you have it, basically whatever you want, under certain guidelines if you're in this neighborhood, or if you don't sell single servings, or if you get the approval of the neighborhood, or whatever. There's always hoops to jump through, and this is just growing pains that the industry is going through. They're going to have to learn how to adapt and how to jump through those hoops appropriately if they want to be successful in these various municipalities. So they'll get through it.
That's for sure. We're going to take one more quick break, and we'll be right back.
My name is Janine Evans, and I am the office manager at Getting Legal, and we help people get their medical marijuana cards. Anyone can be approved for a medical marijuana card as long as they have a pre-existing medical condition. The medical conditions recognized in Nevada include severe pain, severe nausea, muscle spasms, seizures, glaucoma, cancer, HIV or AIDS, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Our staff helps every patient determine before they come in for a visit whether or not they will qualify. We take care of the whole process of getting a medical marijuana card from the state of Nevada from start to finish. Our services include paperwork processing, a physician's visit, notary services. All of our patients pick up their approval letters right here in our office. We make it fast, simple, and easy. During your consultation, we will discuss different products available at the dispensaries, such as edibles, lotions, and concentrates. We will also discuss different ways to medicate, such as smoking or vaporizing. You will receive a separate identification card identifying you as a medical marijuana patient. This is used to enter the dispensaries and only to enter the dispensaries. Every veteran receives a discount off of the full price of their card. We also offer discounts to anyone working within the medical marijuana industry. All you need to do is call 702-979-9999, and a member of our friendly staff will help you schedule an appointment.
And thank you for joining us for the last segment of the Nevada Cannabis News Hour. We're going to jump into a local story about a Las Vegas chief executive officer of not a company that sells marijuana, but a company that provides ancillary services to the marijuana industry, has been banned from gaming on the Wynn's casino floor on grounds that his money comes from illegal sources under the Money Laundering Act. This is written by Ed Murrieta from Leafly, and the gambling industry's year-old program that's been intended to prevent money laundering in America's casinos has resulted in one of the cannabis industry's highest-profile media executives being banned from gambling at the Wynn and Encore in Las Vegas, Nevada. Wynn has banned Isaac Dietrich for his source of wealth in the marijuana field. He's the chief executive officer of Denver-based social media platform, Massroots, and one of the investors who recently purchased controlling interest in High Times magazine. He is also affiliated. He signed up for a Wynn Resorts Red Card Reward program, which is supposed to give you incentives, bonuses, etc. If you do any gambling, you have to have one of these cards, or you're just wasting your time. Yeah, you're just wasting your time. And instead, he received a different kind of red card, an ejection from the casino. He said, as I quote, "I can confirm that I was permanently banned from gambling at Wynn Resorts on June 7th, 2017 due to my role as chairman and chief executive officer of a publicly traded technology company focused on the cannabis sector," end quote, Dietrich told Leafly in an email today, June 7th. So this just happened within the last week. This isn't like, this happened in 2015 or whatever. This is after these bills passed. This is right now. And in a June 7th email to Wynn Resorts compliance officer, noting that the Massroots stock is traded by many of the same institutions that have holdings in Wynn's resorts, Dietrich explained that Massroots is a technology company that does not deal directly in cannabis. Now, in a response to his email, Wynn Resorts compliance officer Wary Reeland begged to differ. He basically was saying, does your business model base itself around marijuana or not? And the answer to that is obviously yes.
No, the business model markets around
your
marketing.
Business model is cannabis, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. As the state versus federal debate, they just lean back on that, and the Bank Secrecy Act, etc. It's just a bunch of crap. It really is. It's I'm going to jump ahead to the end of this article here.
Go right ahead, sure.
And the title of the last segment here is "Trade Show Visitors Equal Money Launderers?" Question mark. Dietrich's running afoul of anti-money laundering compliance at the Wynn Casino over the source of his income comes as recreational cannabis sales are set to begin on Nevada on July 1st. If the Wynn's policy becomes active among other resorts, it could cause some interesting conflicts, as Las Vegas has become the de facto capital of cannabis industry trade shows, as well as every other kind of trade show in the country. The annual Marijuana Business Conference, America's largest cannabis trade show, is held every November here. Last year, the show attracted more than 10,000 attendees. This year, it will move to the Las Vegas Convention Center because they have outgrown the Rio, and they are expected to draw upwards of 14,000 guests. That is a lot of visitors to ban from the casino floor, considering they are all drug trafficking money launderers.
This is just absolutely absurd. And the idea that the Marijuana Business Expo is growing from 10,000 when we went to it
40% gain just this year.
40% in 1 year.
Unbelievable.
Incredible.
And beyond that, tying into this story, I remember about 6 months ago I read a story about Derek Peterson, the owner of TerraTech,
yes,
who I believe they operate at least 3 dispensaries here under their Bloom brand, BLUM. He was frustrated to the fact that he was recently unable to get a life insurance policy for him and his family because of his affiliation with the cannabis business. They wouldn't give him life insurance. So he is obviously frustrated, wants to protect his family as any American male would, and as any provider would. And he just kind of had to throw up his hands at the absurdity of it all and decided to bring it forth in a press release. He believes that he's being unfairly targeted and things like that. And obviously the more high-profile CEO of this company, CEO of that company, they're the ones being targeted. If you walk in, if you're a drug dealer from Los Angeles with a pocket full of cash and you walk into the casino, I would think you'd probably be able to go ahead and go play. It's just a matter of that he's such a high-profile figure that they're using that against him.
Yes.
Or they're using that against them. And he can come to some, some basis of reason here at some point.
If the Marijuana Business Expo brings in 14,000, fine, or will bring in 14,000 in the next one. We also have the Age Show, the American Glass Exhibition. We
and
also
the
have
Champs
Show.
Twice a year.
Twice a year. There is a lot of pot business money coming through Las Vegas.
We recently had the High Times Cannabis Cup. We have HempCon. We had, the Hemp Fest. I mean, all these shows.
But even, I'm saying the major shows that go to the casinos, these venues are making a tremendous amount of money off of this. And if you've got 14,000 people coming in for the MBE in November, it's not just going to be those 14,000. They're going to bring spouses. They're going to bring girlfriends or boyfriends. Some of them.
And it's so unfortunate that the cannabis industry has been so soundly rejected by the gaming industry, which shares so many similarities through the course of their licensure and upbringing through the state of Nevada. I could point to dozens of similarities between how the industry is developed, and it's just unfortunate that the gaming industry has taken such a strong stance against them. gaming revenue has not, like, they're looking for new sources of revenue. The drop has been suffering. We're starting to get back to the good old days now, but it's been tough to get new customers. Young people aren't gambling as much as we would like them to, or at least people in the industry would like them to.
People who are high on cannabis are generally going to be a little slower in pulling that lever at the slot machine.
If they were to attempt to embrace them, I think they would find a demographic among cannabis consumers and providers that want to have fun. They want to get away from their jobs like the rest of the country, and they have a lot of disposable income. And oh, by the way, it's an all-cash business.
Yeah.
What? I don't, you know, I'm not going to get into it, but it just seems too obvious not to grab a hold of.
But the general idea that Las Vegas casino operators are going to say, we don't want your money because it's been tainted with marijuana. If they really truly believe that, and they put a sign on, out in front of every casino that said that, they'd see a significant drop in revenues.
No, of course.
It's just, I think it's just self-serving and
yeah.
It's just more crazy.
Before we leave, we got limited time, but this very last silly story.
Because we were talking a little earlier about going across state borders and how easy it is and this and that, and why shouldn't people are going to be bringing it on. What happens when they do?
Well, there's a Chicago rapper named Chief Keef who I'm not familiar with, but apparently this guy's a big marijuana. Listen to his
Chief
name.
Keef. Who would have guessed?
And he was arrested Monday at Sioux Falls Regional Airport in South Dakota on marijuana and drug paraphernalia charges. Keith Cozart, who performs under the name Chief Keef, was arrested around 8:30 a.m. after airport security found 2 THC edibles and 4 blunts in his carry-on, said Sioux Falls police spokesman Sam Clemens. The rapper was booked into the jail at 9:21 without bail. Without bail. He's being charged with possession of drug paraphernalia of marijuana and possession of between 2 ounces and a half a pound of marijuana. You know what? Do you understand where that's coming from, all that weight?
The edibles.
They're charging the entire weight of the edible. A friend of mine was on a band, he was on a tour, and they were crossing into Canada, and they had a brownie. The brownies didn't know how to separate the marijuana from the brownie, so they charged them with the whole weight of the damn brownie.
That actually goes back, I studied this in constitutional law. There was a case where people were importing cocaine into the United States, and what they did was they actually dissolved the cocaine into wine and had it in the wine bottles, and they were going to reverse process it on the other end. It got intercepted, and the government's position was, since there is no way for us to physically separate the cocaine from the wine, we're going to charge them with the whole weight.
And that's where that precedent comes.
That's where that precedent came from.
Long story longer with Mr. Keefe here. He's facing some charges, and he was scheduled to perform June 11th at the Rumcata Hotel to perform an all-ages show at an anti-bully celebrity basketball event. Entertainment promoters confirmed the event was at the Stewart Center to help raise awareness for anti-bullying movement and brought in NFL players and UFC fighters.
So he's coming in to do good stuff.
Well, no good deed goes unpunished, you know. We would hate to see him do a good deed for the kids as he's smoking that devil's lettuce.
Well, the idea, though, that he's got 4 blunts and they're charging him with between 2 ounces and 8
and half a pound.
Half a pound. I don't think I've ever seen a blunt that was half an ounce. Actually, that would be a pretty big one. So yeah, you're absolutely right. They're charging them with the edibles.
And they're talking about online. They're like, oh well, the law's the law, and you need to obey the law. It's just like the fact that you people are such statists.
Yeah.
Is like statism is slavery. You got to get out of that mindset that everything the state says is good. That is a bad. A bad gauge of morality is where the state is. You cannot do that. The fact that we're still imprisoning people willingly in this country for possession of a plant kind of spits in the face of that freest country in the world moniker that we've been brought up with.
And that after the people vote to legalize it, you have a governor like our Governor Sandoval who says, "Oh well, that's fine, but all those people who got caught before, well, screw you guys."
I can't get rid of that guy soon enough.
Can't
get rid of him soon enough. Anyway,
so I think we're about the end here. I think Perry's going to have to go down and relax with something as soon as we get off the air and bring that blood pressure down a little bit. But thanks so much for joining us again. We're always happy to bring you the latest news in what's going on here in Nevada. Oh, and there is one other thing, actually. Next week, June 21st, the Clark County Commission will be holding its hearings on MME establishments who want to be going for their recreational licenses.
Wednesday, June 21st at the Clark County Commission building on Grand Central Parkway.
500 Grand Central Parkway. Yep.
They will be looking at these new licenses.
Yes.
And
we'll be at these hearings, and we will be testifying. We would love to see you guys come down, stand with us, support us, and get your voice heard for making a good, responsible marijuana industry.
If Weekend's made a difference in your life, if you've gotten your card through us, or you've attended our parties, or had like-minded thoughts or conversations with us at any of our various events, we need your help.
We could use your help.
We need your help next Wednesday. Please show up if you have any questions at all. Weekend702.org. Find us on Facebook. Private message us. I will respond to you personally.
Yep.
Please get back to us at your earliest convenience. And thank you again for your support.
Thanks for listening.